Part 30. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Jonghu Buletin. Chapter 291. Naturally, it was impossible for Xia's father to submit obediently, so Xia Tingzhou directly removed his two arms. Xia's father's face was pale, and he could hardly scream from the pain. He had never suffered anything in growing up, let alone now his arm was in terrible pain, making Father Xia's eyes red. At this time, there were two huge slap marks on his face, and his body was also pricked with a sweater needle. Everyone has to pay the price for their actions, and the same is naturally true for Xia's father. On the surface, he did not seem to participate in the act of selling his daughter, but he was the one who fueled the flames. Even the person who really wanted to do this was Xia's father. Men are like this sometimes. They choose to remain silent in family relationships and let women speak up to solve any problems. In this way, in the hearts of their children, men are the perfect fathers. Now, Father Xia has paid the price for his actions. After Xia Yun had completely vented his anger, the expression on his face was already one of revenge, but in the end he still cast his eyes on Xia Tingyu's face. Xia Tingyu's son Xia Qingping had already passed out and was frightened by the scene in front of him. Fortunately, he fainted, otherwise he would not have seen the embarrassing scene of his great father in his heart. Xia Yun, you have already taken action against your parents and vented your anger. Just let your brother go. My brother really doesn't know that you have suffered so much. If he knew, he would never let you suffer. Saying such high-sounding words, Xia Tingyu tried to save himself, but it was of no use. Xia Yun sneered. What? When you took the money from my parents selling me to get a wife, why didn't you say you didn't know what kind of person I was married to? Or what kind of person I was sold to? I'll pay for it if you use it. Why don't you say you don't know when Che is happy? You are such a hypocrite. You have received all the love from your parents since you were a child, but you are still not satisfied. Xia Yun saw the eldest brother clearly, turned to look at the second brother Xia Tingzhou and said, Second brother, my parents have always favored the eldest brother since we were little. Whether they stole your scholarship or the things stolen from your house, they were all given to the eldest brother. Even in this house now, the eldest brother brings his sister-in-law with him. If you come here to live, you will be stolen by him sooner or later. Look, this person says on the surface that I don't know anything, but in the end he enjoys the best of everything. Isn't it ironic? What I hate most is this kind of vampire, lying on the ground. You and I suck blood, second brother, I'm really happy today, I can finally take revenge. After she finished speaking, she rushed to Xia Tingyu. When Xia Tingyu didn't react, she slapped Xia Tingyu twice. With a click, Xia Tingyu's arm was also removed. He couldn't use any strength at all and the pain was excruciating. Tingzhou. Xia Tingzhou looked at this man who was completely invisible in the Xia family but enjoyed all the benefits and said, My little sister is right, brother, no matter what bad things your parents do, it is all for you in the end, so it is normal for my little sister to blame you now. You should live a good life by eating my little sister's flesh and blood. You should have something the price. As soon as Xia Tingzhou finished speaking, Xia Yun's slap came up directly, with a frightening slap. Anyway, Xia Yun didn't know how many slaps he had slapped, and his hands were hurting so much, but Xia Yun was so happy in his heart, and his face was full of ferocious happiness at this time. When she finally hit Xia Tingyu's face enough and Xia Tingyu's face became swollen, she continued her behavior. Xia Tingyu, on the other hand, immediately let out a painful wail after being pricked. Ah, sister, if you want money, I have money. Don't do this to me. I'll give you money. I'll give you money, okay. Only then did I remember giving money. In the past, I had always been aloof and allowed Xia Yun to suffer. Xia Yun sneered. I don't want money, and I won't take your life. I just want to hear your painful wails, just like I was when I was dragged back like cargo. I tell you, there will be more painful days in the future behind you, I will make you miserable. As she spoke, she moved her hands harder, causing Xie Tingyu to scream. It really hurt, especially for people who have never suffered such grievances. Naturally, the pain was severe. Xie Tingzhou watched all this happen. He knew that there was a demon in Xie Yun's heart. Only by releasing this demon could Xie Yun be reborn. Otherwise, Xie Yun would always be unable to extricate himself from the previous pain. After venting like this for a long time, when they let go, the three of them were already in a very embarrassed state. Xie Tingzhou clicked a few times and directly restored the arms of the three of them, then took the three of them to the original room and sent them back in. He knew that these three people would never dare to call the police, because no one wanted to provoke a madman. Not to mention the Liang family's great business, Xie Yun's madness had already made the three of them afraid. When Xie Tingzhou returned to the hall, he saw Xie Yun in a good mood. "Second brother, I believe you are willing to help me now. Although I don't know why, I still want to thank you," Xie Yun said. In fact, maybe because they grew up together, Xie Yun knew that this second brother was actually very cold. When he asked him for tuition fees, the other party only helped him because he thought of his previous pain. Everything that happened after that, Xie Yun never thought that this second brother would help. But after such a long time, I didn't expect that I had changed, and this second brother had also changed. He was no longer so cold, but actually became a bit warm-hearted, which made people feel very subtle. But thinking of the second sister-in-law with tears in her eyes, Xie Yun seemed to understand why the second brother suddenly became like this. "There is no need to talk about this between brothers and sisters," Xie Tingzhou replied, but he heard something that surprised him. "Second brother, you have changed a lot, you are different from before," Xie Yun said, looking straight at Xie Tingzhou, as if he wanted to see through the skin and see through the soul inside. Xie Tingzhou dealt with it calmly, and then heard Xie Yun laugh. It seems that second brother really likes second sister-in-law. He has changed a lot for second sister-in-law. He is not as cold as before. Second brother, you must love second sister-in-law very much, right? Xie Yun had a bit of envy in his eyes, while Xie Tingzhou nodded seriously. "Well, I like your second sister-in-law very much. She is very important to me." After saying this, I suddenly heard the sound of system convulsions. Congratulations to the host for starting the temporary task of showing affection in front of your sister. Please tell your sister how much you like your wife. The special reward is blood promoting blood stasis patch formula. Please cheer up the host. Xie Tingzhou looked at Xie Yun and added, "Since I met your second sister-in-law, I realized that there are many people in this world who need my attention, and there are two children who are also the love of my heart. Sister, it was my brother's fault that I didn't help you before. This time you come back to Shangjing City with me, and your sister-in-law and I will take care of you from now on." The rare tenderness in his eyes made Xie Yun look complicated after seeing it. He was even more sure that the second brother in front of him had changed because of his sister-in-law, so he nodded. "Okay, I promise you." Of course, the system's mission was successfully completed. After the brother and sister reached a temporary reconciliation, as soon as they went out, they encountered a man with a group of bodyguards in black clothes, which surprised them both. "Brother-in-law, right? I'm De Biao. You can just call me Brother Biao. I'm a friend of Chu Jun's sister's cousin. Now I'm developing here. I heard that brother-in-law, your sister is being bullied. I came here to support her." "Ouch. Why does your face look like this, sister? Does it hurt?" A man with a big gold chain came up and introduced himself. He was very bold. He was tall and broad, about 1.9 meters tall. He looked like a mountain, which made people feel extra oppressive, but he was not that fat. is really strong, and with the people behind it, it naturally looks very scary. Brother Biao, I am Xie, and this is my sister Xiayun. Please excuse me. I want to take my sister to that beast's house later, so please come with me. Xie knew that this was someone his wife had used her connections to find, specifically to support Xie and Xiayun. After all, in Liang Chejun's eyes, her husband is still very weak. If he meets a scary man, he must have someone to support him. No problem. It's all on me. My brothers and I can't stand these men who beat women the most. Sister Xiayun, right? From now on, we will all be girls. We are brothers, so we are willing to help our girls support. De Biao said, and then he got into the car with others. Xiayun also got into a black car with Xie. According to the location Xiayun said, at midnight in the evening, Xiayun arrived at the home he had been afraid of before. This is the local Wang family. In addition to the man Xiayun married, the Wang family also has that man's parents, so Xiayun sometimes endures beatings from 3 people. But this time, De Biao's younger brother came forward and knocked on the door. The people inside were startled, but they still looked over nervously. Just looking out through the peephole, they saw a large group of men in black clothes, and they didn't dare to. The door is open. Open the door for me. If you don't open the door, I'll kick you. The guy who knocked on the door became increasingly irritable. There was still no sound from inside, and another person on the side spoke. What kind of door are you kicking? Just report our brother Biao's name directly. No one dares not to open the door. De Biao runs a bodyguard company, but he also takes on some tasks, so he has some famous names in Hiang City. People inside open the door. Brother Biao from Hiang City is coming to the door. If you don't open the door, you will be in trouble. When the people inside heard about Brother Biao, their expressions suddenly turned ugly, because many people had heard of Brother Biao's name. Not to say it was bad, but Brother Biao had done a lot of things, good things, and promoting business, among other things. He has even done things like fighting with others out of righteousness. Ordinary people know how awesome their Brother Biao from Hiang City is. So the Wang family could only open the door tremblingly. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 292. When the Wang family opened the door tremblingly, the younger brothers had already pushed Wang Kaid, the oldest male in the family, and walked into the hall. People like Brother Biao naturally had to walk behind, and Xie Tingzhou and Xiayun were also behind, so the Wang family thought they had caused something, not Xiayun. There is a reason for the small population of the Wang family, with only 3 members. The genes of the Wang family have never been very good. They have been passed down alone for several generations. To put it bluntly, after the examination, all men have weak sperms, which cannot make people pregnant at all. They only have very small. The opportunity has been passed down. In Wang Kaid's generation, after marrying his wife, he quickly went to the hospital for treatment, and then gave birth to his son Wang Suguang through diligent treatment. However, he did not expect that Wang Suguang could not see it when he was a child. When he grew up, it was discovered that he was not only a hereditary disease. And it's not working yet. It's the kind that literally, really doesn't work. Therefore, the Wang family concealed this matter and set the son's betrothal gift very high. They did not require the woman to give a dowry, as long as they found a clean girl. After the Xie family heard the news, because Xie Tingyu happened to be in love at the time, Xie's mother had such thoughts and sold her daughter to such a family for money. At first, she didn't know about the Wang family's illness, but later she learned about it. Xiayun knew about this, but there was nothing he could do. You took other people's money, so naturally you had no choice but to shut up, so Xiayun was always the only one who suffered. Wang Suguang also saw a lot of video materials after puberty and realized that he was not good, and his mentality became even more extreme. After his father paid for him to marry a wife, he abused Xiayun in every possible way. Although he was not good, he still liked to torture Xiayun. Can be said to be a real psychopath. The reason why their family imprisoned Xiayun at home was because they were afraid that Xiayun would escape after learning about this matter. After all, no woman can accept that her man is not good enough. Under such circumstances, Xiayun ran away several times. As for why he agreed to let Xiayun come out this time, it was because it was the Xia family who made the call. They all heard it and knew that even if Xiayun dared to run away, the police would definitely arrest him. She caught him and her family would definitely help, so she wasn't afraid at all. I just didn't expect that Xiayun didn't come back at night, and those scary men came in. After all the younger brothers in black clothes walked in, De Biao took Xia Tingzhou and Xiayun in. He was a veteran of the special forces. The reason why he did not stay in the army later was because of his physical injuries. Later, he was established. The bodyguard company has all retired soldiers, who can fight, and the business in Hyang City is also doing well. Liang Chujun has dealt with De Biao before, and it can be said that they have a good relationship. On the way back to the hotel with his son, Liang Chujun directly informed De Biao and asked him to come over to support Xia Tingzhou and Xiayun. After all, some people are bullying good and afraid of evil. De Biao still has written instructions for his actions in Hyang City. Yes, enough to scare the courage of many people. When the three members of the Wang family were surrounded by everyone in the center and saw Brother Biao, Xia Tingzhou and Xiayun walking in, their faces turned ugly. Now they understood that the matter had something to do with Xiayun. Xiayun, what are you doing? Bringing everyone home. Wang Suguang couldn't help but question Xiayun, but he didn't expect to be met with Xiayun's cheerful smile. These are my brothers. They came here today to help me vent my anger. Wang Suguang, this is my second brother. You should have heard of it, right? When Xiayun talked about Xia Tingzhou, Wang Suguang's expression changed. Unexpectedly, Xiayun had a good relationship with Xia Tingzhou. Of course he knew Xia Tingzhou. Who wouldn't envy this man who originally studied in Shangjing City and finally married the daughter of a wealthy family? The Liang Group has tens of billions of assets. That is an achievement that ordinary people cannot achieve in their lifetime. This man has almost reached the sky in one step. When Xia Tingzhou got married, Xiayun had been married for 2 years and had been beaten and abused for 2 years. Wang Suguang was still a little scared at the time, but after asking Xia's parents later, he knew that the relationship between Xia Tingzhou and Xiayun was not good at all. If they couldn't get in touch, there would be no problem, so the Wang family felt relieved. After a few years, there was no one around Xiayun to help, and the Wang family became even more reckless. They never expected that after 10 years, Xiayun, the second brother, would suddenly jump out to help Xiayun, making Wang Suguang look ugly. Second brother, your sister and I have been married for 10 years, and I can still be considered your brother-in-law. What do you want to do by bringing so many people to my house? There were so many uninvited guests, but they didn't look like normal people. Wang Suguang was naturally scared, but thinking about the relationship between relatives, what else could Xiayun do if a husband and wife would be kind to each other for 100 days? If her parents don't help her, what can this brother do? What did you call me? Xia Tingzhou looked at the man in front of him who was almost 50 years old. The thought of his young sister being tortured by such a person was, to be honest, hard for anyone to accept. Second brother. Wang Suguang thought that Xia Tingzhou looked like a pretty boy and would be easy to deal with. At this moment, he showed an attentive smile, but it was really ugly on his aged face. This title is too unpleasant, I don't like it. Xia Tingzhou shook his head. He really didn't like this title. Others below immediately understood what Xie meant. Then, before Wang Suguang could react, he was slapped directly in the face. A slap from a strong man knocked Wang Suguang to the ground, and then spit out two bloody teeth. This frightened the Wang family couple, and they shouted, "How can you hit people? We are going to call the police. We are going to call the police and arrest you all." The Queen Mother shouted, and the king's father rushed to see his son, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that even calling the police would be useless when encountering such a person. Call the police? It's better to call the police. Call the police and let the police come. Then we are also dealing with household matters, right sister? Xie Tingzhou looked at Xie Yun, who was standing aside. After all, it was up to Xie Yun how to deal with this family. He couldn't make the decision for Xie Yun. Whatever Xie Yun wanted, his brother could just help. Xie Yun laughed when he heard his second brother's voice. Yes, we are both married, and what we are fighting about now is just housework. After calling the police came, and that's what they said. After all, when you hit me before, someone from the neighbor called the police, and the police came and knew that after we became husband and wife, they all advised me to be a ninja, saying that this is a household matter, why bother going to the police station? It must be the same now, parents, please call the police and let the police come and take a look at our household affairs. When she said this, she laughed even more crazily and looked a little nervous. You see, so many people are my brothers. This one is my second brother, and the others are the brothers I just recognized tonight. Since you are my husband, it is not good for my brother to hit my husband. I think, it's better if I beat you. Brothers, can you help me lift him up? I'll do it myself. After all, the police uncle said that this is a family matter and we can't call the police. The younger brother on the side kicked the Wang couple away, then pulled Wang Suguang up. Xie Yun stretched out his hand and hit him. Although the palms of his hands hurt, the relief in his heart was enough to make her feel comfortable. The smile on his face made Xie Tingzhou even more excited. Worry. But Brother Biao saw the scene and said with a smile, "Girl, it hurts when you hit someone like this. Come on, I'll give you a bamboo whip and you hit it on the face. I'm sure you'll feel good and your hands won't hurt either." The so-called bamboo weaving is a kind of ruler made of bamboo. It hurts badly when it hits a person. Thank you, Brother Biao. Xie Yun took the bamboo weave and slapped Wang Suguang on the face. His ruthless behavior made other people around him very calm. On the way, they all knew that Xie Yun was beaten severely by this family member. We also found out that Wang Suguang beat Xie Yun because he couldn't do it. Now that Xie Yun has beaten him back, there is nothing wrong with him. When the queen's father saw his son being beaten, he was so distressed that he wanted to rush over, but was caught. Only the queen mother was smart. She had secretly pressed the alarm phone, took it out and said, "Comrade police, I want to call the police," and was immediately hung up. "Boss," she called the police. "I guess the police will come here later." Everyone was a soldier, and later opened a security company and cooperated with the police. Biozi was very calm at the moment. "It's okay, let them come. We didn't do anything today. We just helped my sister to hold up the situation and let her settle the matter with her husband. This is a household matter. I want to see if he encounters this kind of domestic violence. What are you going to do? What's going on? Are you still engaging in double standards?" At that time, when a man hits a woman, it is called domestic violence, and then mediation is done. Isn't it the same way for women to hit men? So, De Biao feels that women are pitiful. Once you get married, you can't help yourself and your life is not guaranteed. If this man changes his mind, there are hundreds of ways to kill a woman. De Biao has seen a lot. Naturally he likes a revengeful girl like Xie Yun. Some women have been abused for a long time, which is pitiful. In the end, they become ill and want to please the person who abused her, so that even Daebiao can't save them. Now everyone felt relieved, and Xiayun also felt relieved. He then asked everyone to help hold the Wang couple back without hesitation, and then continued to beat the two old men, who were already in their 60s this year, with bamboo whips. The two people's faces were quickly swollen. After all this was done, Xiayun was so happy. She looked at the Wang family and his wife with a sneer. Your precious son is a useless man. If he is not good enough, you still want to marry him a wife and harm others. I tell you, today I will make it impossible for him to harm others. After Xiayun finished speaking, he kicked Wang Suguang directly where he couldn't reach. He heard Wang Suguang scream and his whole body convulsed with pain. All the men present felt a little pain, but they had no sympathy for this scumbag. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin. Chapter 293. Wang Suguang screamed in pain. After all, although a certain place was not good, as the most vulnerable part of a man, after being violently beaten, it naturally hurt like hell. It was almost the most painful part of the body. The sound came from that place. The severe pain is even worse than the slap in the face before. It is the kind of pain that spreads to the whole body in an instant, making you unable to control your brain from the severe pain, and you keep moaning in pain from your mouth. Ah, ah. He couldn't even say a word, and cold sweat began to appear on his face. His short hair stuck to his face, and he looked even more embarrassed. But when Xiayun looked at him, he felt even more relaxed. Do you know it hurts now? You can't use it anyway, so it's okay if it hurts. After she finished speaking, she kicked him a second time without hesitation, and this blow directly caused Wang Suguang's whole body to tighten uncontrollably. The two people holding him had also let go, and they saw Wang Suguang suddenly holding the injured body. He curled up on the ground like a cooked shrimp. The moment of severe pain made Wang Suguang's eyes red, his body dripping with cold sweat, and his clothes were even eroded by sweat. Xiayun looked at Wang Suguang like this and smiled. She had been beaten many times in the past 10 years, and now she was acting a little wantonly. Xie Tingzhou was standing there. He had thousands of ways to protect Xiayun. So he supports Xiayun's revenge. Those who talk about patience are just because it didn't happen to them. If it had happened to them, they would have suffered all their lives. Wang Suguang, Wang Suguang. When you beat me before, you never thought that this day would come to you, right? Let me tell you, what kind of golden nobleman do you think you are? You still have to marry a wife and have children when you obviously can't do it. Why don't you go to heaven? You can't do it yourself. Just be an obedient eunuch, and be an obedient bedbug in the ditch, but you come to harm me. Xiayun's life should obviously have been changed when he was admitted to college. Even if it was just a second-level university, it was enough for Xiayun. Compared with his elder brother who dropped out of high school, Xiayun was already very satisfied. I thought I could find a job after graduation and live a peaceful life working to support myself, but I didn't expect that in the end, I would be tortured to death by my parents. After so many years, Xiayun sometimes doubted what she was insisting on, but later she figured it out. What she insisted on was that she would eventually jump out of this pit of fire, so she did not die, nor did she choose extreme measures, because she knew that the days in the darkness would have an end, and sooner or later the sun would shine in, and she would have a new life. Do you know what I just did at my parents' house? Xiayun smiled arrogantly, and the look on his face really made people think of the word psychopath. Maybe she was really going to be driven crazy. In such an environment for 10 years, what woman can endure all this? I beat them, and then I treated them like they treated me. I pricked them hard with a knitting needle, just like they burned me with a cigarette butt. You know, I just hold grudges. What kind of grudges do I usually have? Yes, I wanted to report it on the spot, so even if it was my parents and my eldest brother, I beat them. Their faces were more swollen than yours. If we meet, maybe you can communicate with each other. The experience of being beaten. The people around them didn't say anything. The Wang family and his wife were trembling with fear. Unexpectedly, although Xia Yun was stubborn before, he had no one to help him and was helpless. Now suddenly there was a second brother supporting him. They were surrounded by these big men at this time. They didn't dare to act rashly. Seeing their son injured made both of them extremely uncomfortable. Compared to some people, it is more uncomfortable for their son to be injured than to be injured themselves. Wang Suguang's face was covered in cold sweat, but he looked at Xia Yun with extremely vicious eyes, thinking that now that he was insulted, when the group of people around Xia Yun left, he would make amends sooner or later, and then kill Xia Yun. No one dared to say anything, so Wang Suguang still had murderous intent in his eyes. Brother Biao saw so many people, but he could see the killing intent in Wang Suguang's eyes at just one glance. He walked over and kicked Wang Suguang backwards, hitting the wall of the house. What are you looking at, you idiot? Be careful, I'll dig out your eyes. Do you think of my sister like this? What are you thinking about? Xia Yun was stood up, and he glanced at Brother Biao gratefully, and then said thank you to Brother Biao. After that, he understood the murderous intention in Wang Suguang's eyes, and smiled, not afraid of the desire shown directly by this man at all. Thoughts of slaughter. You want to kill me? Wang Suguang, who do you think you are? If you have such courage, will you always beat me for bad things? Will you let your parents spend money to buy me out? Are you coming back? Oh, by the way, do you know that you are their only son? Do you think it's true that they spent so much money to buy me as a slave? Good for you. As if he was talking about the most ironic thing in the world, Xia Yun looked at Wang Suguang, who was lying on the ground in a panic, and said, You know? In the eyes of your parents, you are just a pig that needs to be bred to carry on the family line. The pigs themselves can't do it, so the parents naturally have to help. Do you know why I stabbed your dad before? Because you can't do it? Ha 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 ha. She laughed, remembering what had happened. I was drugged by my parents and sent to your house. You couldn't do it, so I've always been like this. I've seen all your dirty tricks before, but no matter what you do, you don't have children. I knew you were going to work that day. What did your parents do when you were there? Your mother did the same thing as my mother. Your mother drugged me and then wanted me to sleep with your father. As long as we have a son, they will be satisfied. The faces of the Wang family and his wife were also ugly. They didn't expect that this shameless daughter-in-law would say such a thing in front of so many people. It was simply embarrassing. Yes, they knew it was embarrassing and they knew they shouldn't do it, but they did it anyway. How could I drink your stuff casually? So when your dad wanted to do something to me, I stabbed him with a knife. Did you know later why he didn't call the police? It was because he didn't dare to let you know what he had done. He doesn't dare to let you, his son, know that because he looks down on you and thinks you are not good enough to have a child, he wants to give birth to a child for you. And your mother says she loves you, but she doesn't help you. While my husband was drugging me, they just wanted a child. As for whether the child was yours or your father's, they didn't care at all. Do you think you are pitiful? Xia Yun had long seen through the disgusting truth about this family, so he exposed it all without hesitation. I said you are a pig, do you think I am right? Pigs can at least give birth to piglets, but in the eyes of your parents, you are not even as good as a pig because you can't mate, ha 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 ha. Wang Suguang really didn't expect that his parents would do such a thing behind his back. He was completely stunned. Then, in the eyes of all the men at the scene, he spit out a mouthful of blood. He was really angry and going crazy. Wow, this kind of stimulation was 100 times more painful than the place where Xia Yun hit him before. At this time, the Wang family's face was also full of collapse, especially the disdainful looks from the people around them, which made them feel ashamed. The key was that Xia Yun's voice was very loud. There had been some trouble here before, and someone was already watching at the door. It was lively, and now I heard about the Wang family's housework. Over the years, everyone has speculated about Wang Suguang's inability, but the Wang family blocked it on the grounds that Xia Yun was mentally ill and unfit to have children. But now Xia Yun's words have directly pulled down the fig leaf of the entire Wang family, allowing everyone around them knew that the Wang family was such a dirty family, and they did things that made everyone feel dirty. Even these big men brought by Brother Biao heard such strange things for the first time. They really didn't expect that there were such parents in the world. They were simply crazy. Isn't this just harmful to people? At this moment, the people who controlled the Wang couple loosened their grip, but the couple collapsed and fell to the ground. They really didn't expect that Xia Yun would tell this matter. Not only his son knew about it, but also the people around him. The neighbors also know about it. How can we let them behave in the future? The Queen Mother still remembered her son, and she hurriedly walked to her son on her knees and wanted to wipe his blood. However, she was slapped directly by Wang Suguang. The Queen Mother immediately threw herself to the ground, and was extremely embarrassed after being beaten by her own son. Bitch! They are all bitches. Wang Suguang still had strength. The Queen Mother also cried after being beaten, not because she was beaten by her son, but because she felt sorry for her son. Suguang, I can't help it. You still want to have a child, but you can't. What will you do when your parents get old? That's why I came up with this method. As long as your wife gives birth to a child, whether it's yours or your father's, they are all from our Lao Wang family. Why are you so angry? This is all for your own good. The Queen Mother cried and spoke. This time, Wang Suguang was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Then he got the strength from nowhere and beat the Queen Mother crazily. Then, in the shrinking eyes of the king's father, it turned out to be he got up from the ground, then flew towards the king's father, and then strangled the king's father's neck fiercely. You bitch! You old beast! I'll die for you! Die! One is a man in his 40s, and the other is an old man in his 60s. Their fighting ability is naturally very suppressed. Such dog-eat-dog behavior fell into Xia Yun's eyes, and he felt even more comfortable. The police also arrived at this time. They thought something had happened. They were shocked when they saw the various onlookers inside and outside the door, as well as the big men. As soon as they entered, they saw two men fighting. The younger one is squeezing the older one's neck, and they seem to be father and son. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 294. The police who received the alarm call in the jurisdiction quickly located the Queen Mother's mobile phone and home address, and then dispatched the two nearest police officers to the scene quickly. The people who came were none other than policemen Luo Huai and Jin Feng. These two male policemen had come several times before. It was just complaints from neighbors that the Wang family's beatings had a negative impact. They came several times for neighborhood mediation, and he is a new trainee police officer and does not know what is going on in this house. When he came here, he did not come with the old master. Naturally, he did not know about Xia Yun being arrested several times by the Wang family. He saw two men, his face was swollen, and now a young man was pinching the other old man and hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. Police! Let me go! Let me go! He took the police card and waved it, and then two young policemen hurried forward and pulled the two old people away, ignoring a room full of big men in black clothes. After all, in their eyes, the harm they saw before them became more needs to be dealt with. After finally pulling Wang Suguang away, Wang Kaid, the king's father, had been choked so hard that his face turned red and his neck was thick. If the police had been a step later, they probably could have strangled him to death. There is an old saying that taking away a child is like killing a parent. Originally Wang Suguang was extreme if he couldn't do it, but now he knows that his parents' love for him is just a false use. For the sake of a child, he actually asked his father to cuckold his son. Who can accept this? So even when he was pulled away by the police, Wang Suguang stared at Wang Kaid fiercely, as viciously as a wolf that wanted to bite people to death. I will kill you sooner or later. You old beast. The murderous intent in Wang Suguang's eyes could not be concealed, making the people around him feel that it was indeed reincarnation, and some things were not unpaid, but the time had not yet come. This royal family is just an ordinary family, and it's not like they have inherited the throne. It's okay to engage in marriage fraud. Even the father wants to cuckold his son for the sake of a child, and even the mother drugged her daughter-in-law. It's just chaos. It's so terrible that it makes people feel disgusted just to talk about it. After the two young policemen controlled the impulsive young man, the queen mother on the side supported the king's father and patted the king's father's back with concern. She didn't expect her son to be so cruel. When she saw the red marks on her husband's neck, I felt so uncomfortable that I immediately started crying, but my heart was filled with more complaints towards Xiaoyun. Why did I talk about this properly when I had nothing to do? Didn't my husband fail? She is indeed a bad woman for sowing discord in front of her son. Who called the police? What happened? Luo Huai asked, actually knowing that it was Queen Mother Zhou Yun who called the police, but he still had to ask routinely. After all, the situation seemed very delicate. This young man looks similar to the old man and seems to be related by blood. Why did this happen? Comrade police, I called the police. I wanted to say. Queen Mother Zhou Yun wanted to say it was all her daughter-in-law's fault, but her daughter-in-law and others rushed to her home to cause trouble, making the house restless. As a result, the next moment, the voice was interrupted, and Brother Biao's cheerful voice sounded. I said for her, Comrade police, the thing is like this is my brother-in-law is called Xie Tingzhou, and his sister Xie Yun is the daughter-in-law of this family. This is not my brother-in-law seeing his sister being raped. Look, seeing the slap on her face, I couldn't bear it as a brother, so I brought my brothers over to vent my sister's anger. I didn't do anything, I just wanted to scare them and let them do something to my sister. Better, otherwise we can get divorced. But we didn't do anything. The father and son got into a dog-eat-dog fight. Little brother, are you from the Fangyuan Avenue police station here? I'm De Biao. I often do it. Go to your police station. Brother Biao said this, which frightened the Wang family and his wife. They immediately remembered this person's unique identity, and knew that calling the police would only receive a warning from Brother Biao. They were frightened and did not dare to say anything. Brother Biao. I know you. We still have your photo in our police station. You often assist our police in handling cases. Our chief has told you that you are a good citizen of Hiang City. Luo Huai's eyes suddenly lit up and he looked at Brother Biao. He knew that Brother Biao was a special forces soldier. Seeing Brother Biao's stature, he was immediately envious. People who are policemen may not have been soldiers, but it does not mean that they are not soldiers. I admire soldiers. Hey, it's just a favor. Aren't I capable? We are all part of Hiang City. When encountering any trouble, we should draw out our swords to help. I came here today not to bully others, but to help others. My sister just stepped forward, but who knows what happened to me. They started fighting on their own. You saw the police, comrades, but my sister didn't fight with us. It was the father and son who started the fight. Brother Biao had a good way of dealing with these policemen. He took out a cigarette and handed it over. Although he was rejected, he still smiled and hugged the other person's neck. When this matter is settled, I will go to your police station and invite you to dinner. I have a good relationship with your chief. He was so cool, and Luo Huai was not stupid, so he naturally understood what he meant, so he looked at the person who reported the crime. Why did you report the crime? Why did the two of them fight just now? The Queen Mother Zhou Yun, who was questioned, did not dare to say anything at this time. She opened her mouth to say something, but was pulled by her husband. As a man, he naturally understood that it was useless to say anything at this time. The best way is don't bring this matter to light. I just saw my husband fighting with my son. I thought something would happen, so I called the police. Comrade police, can I withdraw the case? The Queen Mother reacted immediately, and the words in her mouth became like this. However, another policeman looked at Xia Yun, whose face was covered with injuries, and felt that the matter was not that simple, so he asked. You brought so many people here just to watch them fight. Jin Feng didn't think it would be that simple, but what Xia Yun said next shocked the two policemen who had never seen the world. Comrade policeman, I really didn't have to bring so many brothers here to make trouble. Wasn't I beaten? I was thinking of divorcing Wang Suguang, but I haven't said anything yet. I just told Wang Suguang that his father wanted to have a son. He asked his mother to drug me and wanted me to have a baby with his father, so Wang Suguang felt a little unhappy because of the green cloud, so he attacked his father like this. You see, the injuries on their faces are all mutual. Hit me, comrade police, who wouldn't be angry when something like this happens? Xia Yun said such words directly, causing Luo Huai and Jin Feng to look at Wang Suguang and Wang Kaid immediately with extremely complicated eyes. Then they looked at the Queen Mother, who called the police. They felt that this family was in chaos. Not only did they commit domestic violence, but they also committed sexual violence. It was really embarrassing for something like this to happen. How could you have the nerve to call the police? Just when they wanted to continue asking questions, the neighbors outside had sneaked in. After all, Chinese people work very hard to watch the fun. Even if they are separated by a building, everyone would like to get a piece of cake just to watch the fun. Telescope, now there is gossip born in front of them, of course they are trying hard to see it. Now the police are coming, they are not afraid, they directly enter the house. After hearing Xia Yun's words, some enthusiastic neighbors speak. Comrade police, I can testify. Xia Yun's brother didn't do anything after he came. Even the Wang family are dirty things, so they started fighting because the father wanted to cuckold the son, and the son I didn't want to, so we started fighting. Xia Yun is very innocent. Yes, comrade police, I can also testify that these Wang family members are not human beings. They often lock Xia Yun in the house and do not allow them to go out. Moreover, the three of them often rape Xia Yun together. The sound is so loud that our whole building, as you all know, calling the police many times has been useless. Now that Xia Yun has a brother, it's good to get a divorce. Comrade police, I can also testify that the Wang family is fighting with each other. Their family is very chaotic. The son is not good and has a mental disorder. The Wang couple are also mentally ill. If they are not good enough, they still have to spend money to buy a wife, and they abuse them in every possible way. The family there is a throne to be inherited. Several enthusiastic neighbors talked about it and directly sided with Xia Yun. After all, in their eyes, Xia Yun was really a pitiful person who had been wronged. Even though some people outside said that Xia Yun was crazy, Xia Yun was always beaten. They can all hear it. It's very pitiful. Everyone in the whole building called the police many times. In the end, the police mediation resulted in it being a household matter. The result is that the cycle repeats. People call the police every month. It's almost crazy. Anyway, no one in the whole building likes the Wang family and thinks that the Wang family are all crazy. The two policemen naturally understood the situation. Seeing the father and son making such a fuss, they knew that even if they went to the police station, they would mediate in the end. Then they looked at the policeman and said, "Are you sure you don't want to continue going to the bureau? Are you planning to reconcile?" It's not that the police don't like to take care of it, it's that after taking care of this kind of thing, there are still arguments. Every time they take care of it, they get scolded in the end. The two policemen sympathize with poor Xiaoyun, and naturally they don't like the Wang family very much. The Queen Mother quickly shook her head. "Comrade police, I won't call the police. Let's reconcile. This is our family matter. We can just resolve it privately." Just like when the police came to check Xiaoyun's wounds, they eventually reconciled and simply classified the case as a family matter. There was no criminal matter or civil dispute. Xiaoyun laughed mockingly and looked at Wang Suguang, who was still a little crazy standing there, with great ridicule. After the two policemen heard the news that the caller planned to reconcile, they also knew that they were afraid of causing embarrassment in the police station, so they let go and planned to make a record and keep it for their files. But no one expected that just after the police let go of their hands, Wang Suguang was so ridiculed that he felt his brain was buzzing and congested, and then he rushed to the table in the living room, picked up the fruit knife on it, and put it on the table. Without anyone reacting, they stabbed directly at the abdomen of their father, Wang Kaid. His hands were very fast, and although they were trembling, he stabbed him frantically several times. When the two policemen quickly pulled Wang Suguang away, Wang Kaid was already bleeding from his abdomen and fell to the ground. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 295. This murder happened right under the eyes of the police. After all, no one expected Wang Suguang to be so crazy that he dared to kill someone with a knife in front of the police. The person he killed was not someone else, but his biological father, so Luo Huai and Jin Feng quickly controlled him. They pulled Wang Suguang away and took away the knife. As a result, they saw Wang's father lying down. Wang Kai didn't know how many times he was stabbed. Each stab was very deep. Then, blood was constantly oozing out. The neighbors around were screaming wildly. Xie Tingzhou immediately protected Xiaoyun behind him to prevent Xiaoyun from seeing such a horrible scene, but Xiaoyun had already seen it all from the side. Wang's mother was so scared that she could hardly move. She didn't even squat down to look at her husband. She stood there blankly. There was still blood on her body from Wang Suguang's stabbing of Wang Kaid with a knife. She was scared. "Hurry up and call 120, get someone over here." Jin Feng controlled Wang Suguang, and Luo Huai on the side had already taken out his mobile phone and quickly dialed 120, and quickly told where he was. Wang Suguang did not move at this time, but his body was covered with blood, which came from his father's blood, and he was still mumbling, "I will kill you, I will kill you." He was already in a bad mental state, and now after such a thing happened, he finally couldn't control himself and attacked his father. After this, he had a smile on his face. He didn't resent Xiaoyun, but resented his father. If his father hadn't given birth to such a person, how could he be like this? And the father actually wanted to cuckold his son, which was unacceptable to any man, especially Wang Suguang who had a mental problem, and naturally he ended up with such a bitter fruit. "Don't be afraid." Xie Tingzhou blocked Xiaoyun, and noticed that his sister behind him grabbed his clothes with her hands. His voice was also a little comforting, and he reached behind him and patted Xiaoyun's shoulder. Xiaoyun hid behind Xie Tingzhou, lowered his head, and trembled all over. He was not afraid, but excited, because the current situation was beyond Xiaoyun's imagination. Now the father and son were biting each other and were injured. Look, these men will go crazy as long as their interests are violated. Is there a doctor? Is there a doctor here? After Luo Huai called the police, he tried to press the wound on Wang Kai's body, but there were several holes and he was bleeding non-stop. His body was full of bright red blood, but he couldn't cover it all. Wang Kai was already vomiting blood, and it looked like he was going to be scraped off at any time. In this case, the patient could easily die from excessive blood loss. Xie Tingzhou looked at the scene and felt that it was indeed karma, and then deliberately said, "I'm a doctor." As soon as these words came out, Xie Yun behind him couldn't help but tighten the clothes on his second brother's back. Brother Biao was also a little strange. Luo Huai looked at Xie Tingzhou excitedly, and even Wang Kai, who was vomiting blood, looked at Xie Tingzhou with pleading eyes. "Doctor, come and see him, he's bleeding all the time, he'll die if he keeps on like this, what should we do? Even the police can't do anything. If it's just one wound, they can cover it up and control it, but how can they control these multiple holes? Sorry, I'm a plastic surgeon, I only operate on people's faces, I don't know this disease." The ignited hope was extinguished again. Wang Kai was so angry that he vomited blood, and Luo Huai was also stunned. Naturally, he knew that doctors were different from doctors, and plastic surgeons were not as good as ordinary doctors, so he could only accept his fate and continue to press the wound. Xie Yun lowered her head and leaned against her second brother's back. For the first time, she felt that her second brother's back was so broad, which made her feel at ease. There were all kinds of crazy behaviors in her mind, but now they were suppressed. I don't know what she thought of, and a trace of guilt flashed in her eyes. There was no doctor on the scene, and there was a murderer. The neighbors who were watching the excitement ran away quickly, but with such a terrible wound, after Luo Huai persisted for 5 minutes, Wang Kai's face turned pale, his body was covered with blood, and then he died in front of everyone. Luo Huai and Jin Feng were both very upset. After seeing that Wang Kai was dead, they still performed first aid, but there was so much blood on the body that it all flowed out. How could he survive? When he finally put his finger in front of the other person's nose and confirmed that the other person really had no breath, Luo Huai's eyes were red. He was not in pain for this person, but sad for the loss of a life. Even if this man was not a good man, the other person's life ended like this, which was unexpected by the police. 120 arrived late. The doctor who came confirmed Wang Kai's death, and then confirmed that the other party did not need to be rescued, but still had to be taken to the hospital for injury examination, and then a death certificate was issued. When the others were taken away by the 120 people, Jin Feng had already handcuffed Wang Suguang. "Come with us, you killed someone, and the law will punish you." So many people present were witnesses who saw the other party kill with their own eyes. Jin Feng looked at the others. "Please come with us to the police station and make a statement. This case is a criminal case, and Wang Suguang will not be able to escape legal punishment." As a result, when the police were about to take the man away, Wang's mother actually stopped the police and cried with red eyes. "Comrade police, please don't arrest my son. He really didn't mean it. This matter is not a case, it was an accident. My son was careless. This is our family matter. Please, if you are willing to issue a settlement document, please let my son go. My son is innocent." After confirming that her husband was dead, the Queen Mother immediately realized that she would have to rely on her son for the rest of her life. She immediately changed her mind and now pleaded with the police. The two policemen who heard this were simply speechless, and the sadness they had just felt was gone. "Now there is a dead person, madam, I don't care what your status is. A criminal case has occurred in front of our eyes. As police, we want to catch this crime and let the law punish him. No matter what you think, wait for it later, let's go to the police station and talk." Luo Huai said with a cold face, and then walked outside with Wang Suguang. Brother Biao and others planned to take notes together, and after thinking about it, he said to Xieting Zhou, "It's too late. Otherwise, brother-in-law, you and your sister go back first, and we can follow you to the police station. If you come back tomorrow to sign the documents, how about you come over?" Xieting Zhou glanced at Xia Yun and nodded. "Okay, sorry for bothering brother Biao, I'll take Xia Yun back first and go to the police station to take notes tomorrow." Xia Yun didn't say anything, but he agreed with Xieting Zhou's approach. After everyone around him dispersed, Xieting Zhou drove to the hotel that his wife had booked long ago, while Xia Yun sat in the passenger seat and finally began to cry continuously. She opened the car window, letting the wind blow on her face, and then cried loudly. Xieting Zhou said nothing and allowed her to vent it all. She has suffered too much, and Xieting Zhou wants to make the sister live a good life in the future. All the way to the hotel, Liang Chujun had already received the call and was waiting in the lobby of the hotel. His son had fallen asleep. Now he saw his husband bringing his sister in. He noticed that his sister Xia Yun's eyes were red, so he asked in a low voice, "Is the matter resolved?" Xieting Zhou nodded. "That family has no time to talk about my sister now. They can just arrange a lawyer later. I don't want my sister to see them again." Xia Yun remained silent, and Liang Chujun hugged Xia Yun's arm. "It's getting very late. Let's sleep together tonight. I bought some medicine. Sister, you can take a bath and I'll give you the medicine, okay?" She spoke softly, but Xia Yun still didn't reject the sister-in-law. He nodded, and Xieting Zhou felt relieved. "I'm going to sleep with my son. You guys should have a good rest tonight. I'll handle matters at the police station tomorrow," Xieting Zhou said, and the three of them went to sleep separately. Liang Chujun took Xia Yun to the best room in the hotel, and then gave Xia Yun medicine after taking a bath. The two women said nothing, but it seemed that everything had been said. When they slept together at night, Liang Chujun fell asleep, but Xia Yun opened his eyes, and the smell of medicine was on his nose. At this time, he looked at the woman who had changed his second brother, bit his lip, and finally said nothing. After one night, Xieting Zhou took his son to find his wife and sister in the morning. Liang Chujun got up early, but Xia Yun didn't get up. After the three of them had dinner, Xieting Zhou was going to the police station. "Keep an eye on my sister, she's not in a very good state of mind," Xieting Zhou told his wife. Liang Chujun naturally nodded and then said, "Don't worry, Xiao Yao and I will take good care of Xiao Yun." Xiao Yao also immediately said obediently, "Don't worry, Dad, Mom and I will take good care of Aunt. I like Aunt very much. Children are like this. They tend to like whoever treats them well. He seems to have the most magical sixth sense in the world. He can feel your kindness to him just after seeing you for the first time, but you treat him well. If there is malice, he will feel it." It was like when Xia Yao met Xia Yun for the first time. Xia Yun's face was obviously bruised, but Xia Yao just felt that Xia Yun liked him. So Xieting Zhou went to the police station with peace of mind, leaving his wife and son to take care of his sister. As for the few people in the Xia family, he believed that the other party would not dare to do anything. It was around 10 o'clock when Xia Yun woke up, and Xia Yao jumped over immediately. "Auntie, wake up. Mom ordered you food and clothes." "Auntie, my name is Xiao Yao. Do you know Xiao Yao?" Xia Yun was stunned by the child's cute appearance, and then he laughed. "Of course Auntie remembers Xiao Yao. Auntie thanks your mother and also thanks Xiao Yao for staying with Auntie here." Xia Yun got up, put on the clothes prepared by Liang Chujun, and looked completely new. Then they had a meal together. Seeing such a good sister-in-law and child, Xia Yun finally wanted to tell the woman in front of him the secret that he had hidden for many years. "This woman changed my second brother. Second sister-in-law, actually I have a secret that I have been hiding from my second brother. Now I want to tell you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Jonghu Buletin. Chapter 296. At this moment, Xieting Zhou was dealing with the matter about Xie Yun in the police station. Under the arrangement of the police, he made a record. After finishing it, he was arranged by the police to rest in the lobby. Brother Biao stayed up all night for this matter. Going back, I saw Xieting Zhou coming out and waving. Brother-in-law, I've already asked the police. Yesterday, that boy was also awesome. He dared to kill someone in front of the police. With so many certified physical evidence present, he can now be directly blamed. He is no longer a suspect in the case, but the murderer. His mother couldn't stop crying, but she wasn't crying about her husband's death. She insisted on saying that there was a conflict between her son and her husband. This was because she was careless. She stabbed him with a knife so many times in front of so many people. Could it be accidental? Xieting Zhou sat down and listened to Brother Biao speak. That woman thought that this matter could be settled with just one sentence. She kept telling the police that it was a family matter and her own business. Even if her son killed her husband, she could issue a letter of understanding, etc. This isn't it a joke? Brother Biao has met a lot of people in this life, and all of them are very magical. This old lady has also given Brother Biao a lot of experience. When something happens to her husband, she must protect her son as soon as possible, but this son doesn't seem to be doing anything. Like some kind of good guy. Of course the police will not do it. They witnessed the murder and their behavior was bad. I heard that after the autopsy in the police station, they will determine whether the victim is benign according to the condition of the victim. He will be killed to pay for it, or he will be shot, or he will be sentenced to life imprisonment. Anyway, the sentence, I'm afraid it won't work in 10 years. This kind of case is actually very simple, it just depends on the final determination of the case, so Brother Biao didn't leave yesterday. Xieting Zhou nodded after hearing this. Thank you, Brother Biao, for watching over here for me. Later, Jun Chu and I will treat you and the brothers to dinner. Seeing how smart this young man was, Brother Biao patted Xieting Zhou on the shoulder and said. Of course there is no problem with this. We must eat. Even my sister is really pitiful. I looked at my sister's injuries yesterday and thought that this bastard is not a man. How can a man hit a woman? So I said hello to the people I knew in the police station, and found out that there were several reports about the Wang family. One of them was that my sister was missing, and there were reports from others. Anyway, there were quite a few. After checking, I found out that my sister was really he is a poor man. Brother Biao sighed, and then continued. I heard my sister say before that I wanted to divorce this beast. Now people are entering the situation. I'm afraid they won't be able to come out in the future. What are my sister's plans? I asked people to say hello. The death penalty and life imprisonment are still there. Different arrangements. Xieting Zhou also understood that there was buffer space in Wang Suguang's case, but he still said. The death penalty is too cheap for him. Life imprisonment is the best option. Hasn't his mother always said that family matters need to be reconciled? Even if they are reconciled, he still has to be sentenced. Life imprisonment is the best outcome for him. For people like Wang Suguang, the second half of life is painful, and Xieting Zhou has many ways to make him feel uncomfortable. I think so too, and I also know some brothers. I can entertain them well and avenge my sister. Brother Biao and Xieting Zhou are close friends. Both of them have the kind of character that they will retaliate for. They never say that I will let you go after a long time. That is all lies, so naturally now we felt like old friends at first sight. Thank you, Brother Biao. Xie Joe smiled after understanding Brother Biao's voiceover. Little question, I'm waiting here today just to tell you that I found my sister's mental illness case report from a friend in the police station, and guess what I found? Xie Joe was confused and looked over. My sister's psychiatric pathology report was issued 9.5 years ago, but during the half year she and Wang Suguang were together, the two did not have a marriage certificate at all. It was after my sister escaped and was caught twice that she developed this pathology. According to our country's laws, people like my sister who have psychiatric pathology reports are classified as mentally ill and have no civil capacity, so their marriage certificates are invalid. We can apply to withdraw them, Tingzhe. What do you think? Xie Yun is only in his early 30s this year. He will still have a good life in the future. It would be best if he revoked this marriage certificate. As for whether Xie Yun is crazy or not, Brother Biao sympathizes with him. After all, such a person is in such an environment. Even if he is not crazy, he will still be driven crazy. Then I'll trouble you, Brother Biao, please find some connections to have my sister's marriage withdrawn. Thank you very much. Xie Tingzhu's eyes also lit up and he felt that this ending was the best. Brother Biao even laughed and patted his chest. This matter is fine. Leave it to me. I will handle it for you within a week. And don't worry about this case. It will be sentenced right away. It will be as you thought. This can be regarded as directly settling the matter. After all, Wang Suguang's murder naturally requires legal judgment. It is nothing more than a matter of severity. These all depend on the final autopsy results. Here, two men were handling matters regarding Xie Yun at the police station. In the hotel's high-end suite, Liang Chejun was stunned for a moment, then told his son to go play. Xiao Yao, can you go ahead and take your cell phone and leave a message for your brother? My brother will be here at noon. You talk to him. Xie Yao was very obedient and nodded immediately, then ran to where the two women were not and started playing. Liang Chejun looked at Xie Yun, who had a hurt face but felt very guilty, and then gently held Xie Yun's hand. It's okay. Please tell me what happened. Tingzhou has a good personality and I won't blame you. This is her husband's secret. Liang Chejun thought for a while and asked. When you tell me the secret, do you want me to tell your second brother? Probably because he couldn't speak out, he found someone to spread the information. Liang Chejun was considerate of Xie Yun in front of him. Kindness. Xie Yun nodded. She always thought that this matter would be an eternal secret, and she would never tell anyone in the future, let alone her second brother. Although she didn't know what the so-called result was, Xie Yun felt that she was afraid of hurting her second brother. What? Therefore, she has not told this matter all these years. Now that her second brother has stood up for her, Xie Yun is happy, but also guilty. She doesn't know what the result was back then, but she wants to tell this matter, and she wants to tell me what you did at the time. Okay, tell me, I promise to tell him. Liang Chejun also nodded. He always felt that Xie Yun in front of him would tell some big secrets, and he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. It's like this, probably when the second brother was in junior high school, sister-in-law, you also saw my eldest brother and me. My eldest brother looks similar to my father, and I look similar to my mother, but only the second brother looks particularly different. She was pretty and smart when she was young. My eldest brother dropped out of school after graduating from high school early and didn't even go to college, but my second brother was always among the best when he was a kid, and even got a scholarship when he was in junior high school. My parents didn't like him. When I was a kid, I didn't understand why my parents didn't like the second brother. The second brother was obviously so good and good-looking, but later I understood. Xie Yun's face showed sarcasm. It's jealousy. It was jealousy that made my dad hate my second brother. Because the eldest brother looks more similar, he favors the eldest brother. On the contrary, because the second brother looks so good, people around him keep joking that he doesn't look like my parents' child, and he is still the kind that describes a genetic mutation. The more people outside praised my second brother, the more my dad favored the eldest brother. My mother lived with my dad, so she could only favor my second brother. At that time, my second brother's room, the two of them always secretly search and get all kinds of things belonging to my second brother, and then they find a reason to curse him and beat him. I was also scolded along with my second brother at that time, and I was the most unpopular person in the family. Xiaoyun thought of his life and felt that he had been living in pain, suffering because of his identity as a woman, and suffering because of being in such a family. What about his second brother? She is obviously good enough and good looking enough, but she is still hated by her parents, beaten, cursed, and subjected to all kinds of weird things. So in the third year of junior high school, my second brother secretly collected the hair follicles of my parents. He carefully put these things in a glass bottle, and then carefully hid it. There was even a sticker on it. People outside at that time you can say anything, but they all say that a child like the second brother is not something that the Xie family can give birth to. I am afraid that the second brother also has thoughts and wants to do a blood test. After hearing all this, Liang Chujun didn't know what to say. He looked at Xiaoyun in front of him and guessed what Xiaoyun had done. I don't know what was wrong with me at the time, whether it was jealousy or the inherent sin factor. I replaced the bottle that belonged to my second brother, took out his hair follicles, and put it in my own hair. I know that I look very similar to my mother, so I can't imagine that my second brother may not be my biological child. Later, the second brother took these things and the scholarship he finally saved to do an appraisal. When the appraisal report came out, he was in a bad mood for several days. I found the appraisal report in his school bag. Because my parents often look through my second brother's room, but my parents never look at my things, so my second brother put these things with me in advance. I didn't look at my second brother's things before, but that time I went to see it as if it was a strange thing, and the result above is that it is my biological child, but the test result is from me and my parents. Xiaoyun talked about the past more than 10 years ago. So far, she still dared not tell Xie Tingzhou about it in person. She took Liang Chujun's hand and said, "Sister-in-law, please tell my second brother this matter. His guess back then may have been right. He is incompatible with the Xie family. Maybe he has no blood relationship with the Xie family at all. Good man, he has a golden finger." Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 297. Liang Chujun was shocked by such sudden news, and didn't know what to say for a moment. Thinking that the environment in which her husband grew up was so bad, and that he still worked hard to grow up under such circumstances, Liang Chujun felt particularly sad. Looking at Xiaoyun in front of him, although he sympathized with Xiaoyun, but when he thought about it, if Xie Tingzhou was really not from the Xie family, then if it weren't for Xiaoyun's behavior nearly 20 years ago, his husband would probably have a different world. This simply made Liang Chujun not know what to say. Xiaoyun did not flinch when he met Liang Chujun's eyes. Although there was guilt in his eyes, they were filled with ridicule. "Perhaps I am bleeding from the most despicable blood of the Xie family, so I thought I was different from the Xie family, different from my biased parents, and different from that elder brother who only knows how to suck blood, but in fact I am still the same. The more I see the excellence of my second brother and the more I see my second brother wanting to escape from this family, the more I am afraid. I am afraid that the beatings and scoldings that once fell on my second brother will fall on me, so I did that." At that time, I kept comforting myself, saying that my second brother was a child of the Xie family, and the result would be the same even if I used the Xie family's hair. Xiaoyun said, but his face full of scars made people feel hateful. This is probably why some people say that poor people must be hateful. This world requires perfect victims, but they don't think that as long as they are human beings, they are all imperfect. Even though Xia Yun has been pitiful these years, for Xia Tingzhou, or perhaps hateful. If Xia Tingzhou is really not a child of the Xia family, then Xia Yun has simply delayed Xia Tingzhou for more than 20 years. But I know in my heart that it is actually different. The second brother is so good, even in such a messed up home, he can still go out and go to the bigger world. When I was admitted to college, the second brother was only a junior in college. At that time, my second brother was preparing for various exams and postgraduate entrance exams. But after I said I wanted tuition, my second brother still gave it to me. I was thinking at that time, I really wanted to tell everyone what I had done. But I don't want to let him go because I am also a selfish person. The ridicule on Xia Yun's face seemed to be mocking herself. She was analyzing herself in front of the people closest to her second brother. I can't imagine that second brother would never come back if it weren't for the Xia family. It's like an ugly duckling turning into a swan. What's more, second brother is a swan. If he flies away, people like me will, no matter how long I live, I will probably never see my second brother. During the 4 years of college, my second brother paid for my tuition and living expenses. I also worked part-time, but most of it came from my second brother. Help, sister-in-law, you don't understand that a drowning person will naturally want to grab this last straw, even though he knows that this straw is unreliable. She remembered the indifference of her second brother, and now she looked at the woman in front of her with a blessing on her face. This time when my second brother came back and I saw him again, I knew that he had changed. Although he used to sponsor me to go to school, he didn't talk at all except giving me money almost every month. He is a people who are used to being indifferent are like this to everyone and will not take the initiative to help anyone. But when he met you, you changed him and turned him from an indifferent monster into a human being. When Liang Chujun heard this, she felt even more sour in her heart. She felt sad for her husband's years of suffering, but she was not proud of it because she also liked her husband at all times. After I graduated from college, my parents deceived me, knocked me out and threw it to this man. In fact, I later wondered if this was tit for tat. I had deceived my second brother, so my family also deceived me. I actually wanted to contact the second brother several times, but the second brother seemed to have changed his contact information. Later I found out that it was because the eldest brother was getting married. My father and mother asked the second brother for 500,000. The second brother didn't have it, so he was harassed. And then changed the phone number. In the end, this 500,000 became the reason why I ruined my life. Sometimes I even thought this was God's best revenge for me. Sister-in-law, I have suffered a lot in these years. After Wang Suguang's matter is resolved, I don't want to go to Shangjing City. I want to go to a place without people. I don't want to disturb my second brother and disturb your lives anymore. I am a sinner. There are no good people in the Xie family, only sinners. The second brother has already chosen this fire pit. From now on, my sister-in-law should take care of the second brother and don't let him come back again. After Xia Yun said everything he wanted to say, Liang Chujun's expression turned ugly, but he could not make a decision for her husband on this matter. I will tell Tingzhou about this matter. In the end, it is up to Tingzhou whether you stay or go. Of course, if you are determined to leave, you must also tell Tingzhou. He has the right to know this. You know, he is still worried about you. Some people are pitiful and hateful. Liang Chujun thought about the appearance of her husband and the appearance of the Xie family she had seen. They really didn't look like a family. Even if it was a genetic mutation, why didn't the other two children have mutations? So Liang Chujun felt that if Xia Yun hadn't changed his hair back then, the final outcome might have been different. The two women sat there, and the atmosphere was a bit dull. After Sieting Zhou finished his work at the police station, he got into the car again. The destination was the airport. His mother-in-law Huang Shutong would land at the airport with her young son. After arriving at the airport at 10:40, I quickly saw my mother-in-law holding her youngest son Liang Xian at the pickup gate. "Mom. Xian. I'm here." Sieting Zhou waved his hand, and Huang Shutong saw his son-in-law. He was very unhappy before, but now that he knew that his son-in-law and his daughter had admitted their mistakes and had reconciled, Huang Shutong naturally smiled at her son-in-law. However, Liang Xian was still unhappy when he saw his father, pouting a little unhappy. The two walked over and Huang Shutong spoke. "I received a call from Chu Jun last night, and I immediately brought Xian over. Are you okay? How are things going at home?" She was concerned, but Sieting Zhou had already bent down and picked up his son. Liang Xian was reluctant, but still put an arm around his father's neck. "Mom, don't worry, things are being handled smoothly. I asked you to come here this time to trouble you because I want you to take care of the child with Chu Jun. I can rest assured that there are some things to deal with at home." Sieting Zhou said, then looked at his still unhappy son and said, "Ziyan, are you still angry with Dad?" Sieting Zhou has not called anyone since they met until now. Sieting Zhou knows that this child is smarter than Xie Yao and is more sensitive to the world. Perhaps it is because of his different status. Even in terms of material, the Liang family gives him the same, but Liang Xian is the future heir of the Liang family, so the things he teaches are different. Even though this child is 6 years old, he is very thoughtful and can observe people's emotions. He is much smarter than that silly brother. Liang Xian didn't speak, and Huang Shutong on the side also coaxed him. "Xian, didn't you say you missed Daddy on the plane? Why don't you call someone when you see Daddy now? Where are your manners?" As soon as these words came out, Liang Xian immediately called someone obediently. "Dad, I was angry because you sent my brother away, but I am not angry anymore because Grandma said that I will take my brother home with Grandma this time. Please don't send your brother away in the future, okay? If you have to, if you want to send me away, can you send me away and leave my brother at home? My brother is so stupid. If he goes outside, he will definitely be bullied." Despite his young age, Liang Xian has a heart to protect his brother. These words are enough to prove the affection between the two brothers. After all, they are twins, and they are almost telepathic. Therefore, Sieting Zhou leaned over and kissed his son's cheek. "Then Daddy apologizes to you. He shouldn't have sent your brother away before, which made our Xian angry. Dad promises that he will never send your brother away again, nor will he send Xian away. From now on, he will keep you with Daddy. Mom, grandparents, okay. Can Xian forgive Dad this time?" Coaxing his son, the gentleness between his eyebrows attracted many people around him. Seeing such a handsome man holding a smaller version of him, it really felt different. "Okay then, I will temporarily forgive Dad, and then I will fully forgive Dad after I see my brother." Liang Xian nodded obediently, then turned to look at Grandma. "Grandma, I didn't call Daddy, nor was I rude. It was Daddy who made a mistake. Dad apologized to me first, so I will call Daddy and forgive him. This child has been well educated by the Liang family. He is the kind of kid who is too clever in the eyes of adults. Sieting Zhou thinks it is quite good. The eldest son is not too narrow-minded, but if the younger son is more thoughtful, he will not suffer." The three of them walked outside and quickly got into the car. After getting inside the car, Liang Xian nestled in Sieting Zhou's arms and fell asleep soon after. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep since he knew he was coming to see his brother last night. He had to catch a flight, so the kid didn't sleep all day. "Mom, if you come here this time, you can either take Chu Jun and the two children home directly, or you can play here for a few days before leaving. I have some things to deal with at home. After they are dealt with, I will go back to Beijing City. It's too troublesome for you. As Xieting Zhou said, Huang Shutong felt that her son-in-law looked good at this moment and was not angry with him. What's the trouble? We're all a family. You just go about your business. Chu Jun and I can take care of the child. I've also told your dad about the situation. We'll have dinner together at the old house when we get back. You know, a mother is happiest when she sees her daughter breaking the ice with her son-in-law. After all, parents want their daughters to have a good life, as long as it goes smoothly. Okay, don't worry. I'll bother you and Dad when the time comes. Chu Jun and I will go home and stay for a while. These words made Huang Shutong even more happy. Later, Xieting Zhou talked about Xie Yun's matter, which made Huang Shutong sympathize. She kept telling Xieting Zhou to handle this matter well and help the sister. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 298. When Xieting Zhou arrived at the hotel with his mother-in-law and youngest son Liangxian, the only people who came out to greet them were his wife Liang Chejun and son Xie Yao. Xie Yao rushed over crazily like a little firecracker. Liangxian suddenly threw away his father's hand and rushed towards his brother. Then the two brothers suddenly bumped into each other and hugged each other. Both of them cared about each other. They were obviously very forceful when they rushed out, but when they hugged each other at the end, they relaxed their bodies and hugged each other tightly. Brother, I miss you so much. Do you miss me? Liangxian actually occasionally shows his little adult side in front of adults, and his thinking ability is very strong, but in front of his brother, he always calls him brother in a silly and sweet way, which made Xie Yao feel that the thing he worked hardest to do was to do something. Protect your brother. It's not okay for those kindergarten classmates to want to marry their younger brothers. The younger brothers haven't grown up yet and they can't bully them. Brother, I miss you so much. I cried all night long. I know you cried too, right? Sometimes I feel uncomfortable at night. It must be you who is crying. Are you crying secretly under the quilt? After all, they were twins, and the telepathy between them was far beyond what adults imagined, so Xie Yao was naturally worried when he saw his younger brother and asked if he was crying. Liangxian wanted face in front of adults, but he didn't want it in front of his brother, he said with red eyes. Well, I cried. If you don't come home, I will hide in the quilt and cry until I am blind. I will never see you again, so you will be happy. When Xie Yao heard this, he became extremely nervous. He quickly let go of his brother, and then lay on his face to check his eyes. His little eyes were full of worry. My brother's eyes must be okay, right? Don't cry. I will never leave you in the future. I miss you every day. We don't want to cry. We all need to be fine. Xie Yao is a big-hearted child. Even though he was bullied, he was still very lively at this time. However, after Liangxian saw the injury on his face, he reached out and carefully touched his brother's face. Did someone hit you? Brother, are you in pain? Why do they bully children like this? At this moment, Liangxian also saw the scars on his brother's face, and the tears that he had managed to hold back suddenly fell down. He was already cute, but now his tears were falling, and he looked terribly pitiful. Xie Yao also couldn't help crying when he saw his younger brother crying, but he raised his head and cried, touching his younger brother's cheek with his hand to wipe his tears, and said, "Brother, please stop crying. I don't feel any pain anymore. I can't cry now. Mom said that if you apply medicine on your face, it will be useless if you cry. Please don't cry either, okay?" Tears still flowed from the corners of his eyes. Liangxian also imitated his elder brother's example and wiped his tears. The deep love between the two brothers made the three adults on the side feel happy and sad. The two women were about to start crying. Xieting Zhou hurriedly knelt down and held the two identical children in his arms. Okay, okay, don't cry anymore. It's Dad's fault this time. From now on, Dad promises that he will never let you two brothers be separated again, and he won't let you cry anymore, okay? After the two children were hugged, they started to put their arms around Xieting Zhou's neck. Xieting Zhou easily picked them up, with someone sitting on each arm, and then they burst into tears and laughed. Dad, we made an agreement. I don't want to be separated from my brother in the future. Liang Xian spoke, knowing that adults sometimes lie. Xie Yao admired Xieting Zhou very much because of what happened yesterday. Our family will never be separated. My father, mother, grandparents, and my brother and I will never be separated. Children's childlike words are always so heartwarming. Huang Shutong looked at the two children who suddenly became happy and felt that they were worthy of being brothers from the same mother. They were really close. Okay, let's go eat now, okay. After hearing what Grandma said, the three adults took the two children to dinner. Xieting Zhou asked about Xie Yun on the way. After learning that Xie Yun was dining in his room, he felt relieved and took his mother-in-law and wife to dinner. During which I also took on a task, which was to show affection in front of my mother-in-law. In fact, this task was completed very easily. It only took one night from Shangjing City to get here, and the marks on Liang Chejun's neck have not disappeared, so Huang Shutong naturally knew that her son-in-law and daughter had a good relationship, and she looked at the two people passionately in love while eating. Yes, this makes me feel more at ease. After finishing the meal, Huang Shutong saw that her daughter seemed to be hesitant to speak, so Huang Shutong left time for her daughter. Knowing that I was coming to see my brother today, Xian didn't sleep all night. I just slept on the plane and on the road for a while. Now I'm taking Xiao Yao and Xian to take a nap. Huang Shutong also saw the injury on Xie Yao's face, and felt equally distressed, but she would not show excessive concern in front of Xieting Zhou, because it would easily make her son-in-law feel that she was blaming him. Okay, Mom, I'll leave it to you to take care of Xiao Yao and Ziyi Yan. Liang Chejun nodded, and then Xieting Zhou also thanked Huang Shutong. Then she took the two children to rest in the room, which was the suite that Liang Chejun had opened before. After they left, Xieting Zhou took Liang Chejun to the bedroom upstairs, and then talked about the police station and Xie Yun's future life. At that time, let Xie Yun follow us to Shangjing City, but don't worry, you don't have to worry. I will arrange a job for Xie Yun in the beauty hospital. After all, he has a diploma and can learn some other things quickly. Life should be easy. Question. Xieting Zhou said, but Liang Chejun looked complicated when he heard this. Thinking of what Xie Yun said in the morning, she felt even more uncomfortable for her husband. She felt uncomfortable thinking that her husband was still worrying about him. What's wrong? Suddenly realizing that his wife was silent, Xieting Zhou looked over in confusion. As a result, Liang Chejun hugged his neck, and then leaned over, relying on Xieting Zhou's body. Xieting Zhou hugged his wife's waist, then easily hugged Liang Chejun and patted her back. What's wrong? You don't look happy since you came back. Is it because Xie Yun's incident made you irritable? After all, she is also a girl, and seeing something like this happen to another girl makes people feel a little uncomfortable. Liang Chejun opened his mouth, feeling even more uncomfortable, but still said. It's Xie Yun. Xie Yun told me something. Let me tell you. Xieting Zhou was a little confused when he heard this. What happened? What could make Liang Chejun unhappy? When you were in junior high school, you wanted to do a DNA test with the Xie family, right? Liang Chejun asked, and Xieting Zhou then remembered the suspicions and actions of the original owner in his memory. The original owner was really smart, otherwise he would not be able to survive in a mud pit like the Xie family. He even left the Xie family and went to Shangjing City, although he never returned after that. However, the Xie family couldn't do anything about him. From this point of view, the environment in which a person grows up has a lot to do with the character he eventually develops. Well, that's it. After all, you see that I am so handsome and I look nothing like my parents. At that time, many people told me that I might not be my parents' biological child. After all, it is impossible for genetic mutations to be like this, and my eldest brother my sister looks similar to my parents, but it turned out later that although I look good, I am indeed my parents' child. If it weren't for this result, the original owner would not have set a goal for himself when he was in junior high school, which was to be admitted to the university farthest from Hyang City, that is, Shangjing University. For this goal, the original owner worked really hard. Even if he didn't meet Liang Chujun later, the original owner had really escaped from his original family. The Xie family is very deformed, depressing, and full of partiality, which makes people feel unbearable. Then do you think that maybe the original identification was wrong? Liang Chujun reached out to touch her husband, thinking about what kind of environment it was in that Xie Tingzhou would suspect that he was not his parents' biological child, and what price he paid for it. I don't know. Maybe I already accepted my fate at that time. After seeing that certificate, I set a goal for myself. I must go to a university that my parents can't find. It's very far away. Xie Tingzhou doesn't like people from the Xie family either. As you know, I never went back to my hometown after I was admitted to college. Later I got married and stayed in Shangjing. Except for a few days last year, I didn't like coming back here. It's not what I like here. Place. After revealing these past events to his wife, Liang Chujun felt even more pitiful for her husband. This is probably what a woman's love is like, her love is pity, sympathy, and she feels sorry for you. When a woman feels sorry for a man, it proves that she really likes him. Of course, men are just the opposite. Not only will men not sympathize with women who are in pain, they will even add insult to injury. They hide their strong will in their bones. No matter how disguised they are on the surface, once they know a woman's wounds, they will continue to focus on them. Sprinkle salt to get what you want. And women, because of such wounds, like and love a man even more. Thank you for telling me today. Liang Chujun stood up from her husband's arms, and then looked at Xie Tingzhou in front of him very seriously. Xie Yun told me that she discovered that you were going to do DNA work, so she replaced the glass bottle where you kept your hair follicles with hers, so your test results at that time were not those of you and the Xie family. It's about Xie Yun and her parents. Xie Yun said that maybe you are not really the biological son of the Xie family. Hearing this result, Xie Tingzhou was also stunned. He didn't expect that there was something about Xie Yun involved. He was a little dumb for a moment. Thinking of Xie Yun's death, and the fact that the original owner in his memory didn't know about it at all, could this be a ring? Interlocking fates? He saved Xie Yun, and Xie Yun told him about it. The original owner did not save Xie Yun, and Xie Yun kept the secret until his death. So, is the original owner the biological son of the Xie family? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin. Chapter 299. For the Xie family, Xie Tingzhou adheres to the idea of keeping a distance. He originally wanted to reach out and give Xie Yun a hand when he saw Xie Yun sinking into the fire pit, but he did not expect that such a girl, in such a family and environment, would also he did something that may affect the original owner's life. Xie Tingzhou recalled that Xie Yun died 2 years later in his memory, and the original owner, as the second brother, didn't care at all whether the sister died or something else, so naturally he didn't know that the things he wanted to know when he was a child were replaced by others. A deformed environment like the Xie family is enough to bring too much unstable pain to people, making people unable to extricate themselves from it. Whether it is the Xie family couple who caused all this, or the boss Xie who has been sucking blood, or even the original owner, they all sank into the abyss of growth, and in the end they changed into something else. Xie Tingzhou was deep in thought, but Liang Chujun held her husband's hand, knowing that her husband was also shocked by this incident. I was also shocked when Xie Yun told me about this matter. She said that she had hidden this matter for so many years and was selfish in not telling you. Now she didn't expect to be saved by you. After this matter is over, she plans to leave and says she has no shame in seeing you in the future. Liang Chujun really felt that the Xie family was simply sick. They didn't want to see such a good husband, but they preferred the one who was the worst in the family. If there were other reasons before, but now it seems that apart from the husband, there is no one else. This is not a path their son can choose. Well, I understand, Xie Tingzhou nodded. Among everything that happened to the original owner, this incident did not appear. This made Xie Tingzhou really curious. Is the original owner the child of the Xie family? In fact, judging from the memories of childhood, although the Xie family couple did not like the original owner, they did not seem to show that they knew that Xie Tingzhou was not their son, and it was precisely because they knew that this was their son that the Xie family couple only then can he sees everything from the original owner more confidently. Then what are you going to do? Does Liang Chujun mean that he needs help? Xie Tingzhou said. I will handle this matter myself. You can play with mom in the hotel, or at a fun place here. I will tell you the result after I handle this matter. This kind of housework is destined to make people feel bored, but it is better to give a result after handling it. Xie Tingzhou stretched out his hand and touched his wife's hair. There must be another way to deal with Xie Yun. After the two hugged for a while, Xie Tingzhou said that he wanted to go to Xie Yun and talk about things in the police station. Liang Chujun did not stop him, but nodded. Xie Tingzhou went directly to another suite. After knocking on the door, Xie Yun opened the door. She still had many scars on her face standing inside. She looked away after seeing Xie Tingzhou, seeming a little guilty. Second brother, come in. She said and walked inside, feeling that what was supposed to come would still come, and even after such a long time, there would still be a result. Xie Tingzhou walked in and sat on the sofa. Xie Yun also sat on the sofa opposite him. I came here to tell you about the police station. Wang Suguang killed someone directly in front of the police, which is very bad. According to this situation, generally speaking, it is either the death penalty or life imprisonment. Imprisonment, I think life imprisonment is more suitable for someone like Wang Suguang, what do you think? After hearing the news about her husband, a trace of disgust flashed across Xie Yun's face. Well, second brother, I understand what you mean. It is too easy for such a person to die so easily, just to make him live in torment forever. Thank you, second brother. Xie Yun looked at Xie Tingzhou gratefully and found that the second brother had no expression on his face. He knew that his sister-in-law had probably told the second brother about the matter, but since he had said it, he was already prepared for the second brother to know everything. Xie Yun was prepared to be hated by his second brother. Xie Yun knew that he was now standing on the edge of the cliff with no way out. Even if his second brother hated him, it was normal. Well, the other thing is the marriage certificate between you and Wang Suguang. Because your parents applied for a mental illness certificate for you at that time. According to our country's laws, mental patients do not have civil capacity, so this marriage certificate is not valid. I have arranged for Brother Biao to find a relationship and revoke your marriage certificate. No one will find you in the future. It's just that the mentally ill person needs to keep the certificate. Xie Tingzhou took out Brother Biao's contact information and handed it to Xie Yun. This is Brother Biao's business card. You can just call him directly. I told you about your marriage compensation at the police station. The Wang family will compensate you 1.2 million. In about a week, Brother Biao will help you handle it. Okay, take it yourself. Xia Yun held the hand holding the business card tightly. She didn't expect that her second brother would be willing to help her after knowing all this. She suddenly had tears in her eyes and bit her lip and said, "Second brother, has my sister-in-law told you what I told you before?" She didn't know whether her tears were sad or guilty, but they were all useless in Xie Tinghu's eyes, so he looked over. "Yes, I know everything. You changed the DNA hair follicles before. This happened a long time ago, but it is very important to me. I know why you wanted to change the hair follicles, but before you were my sister, you are just a poor woman. I see that any woman who is persecuted by her family or bullied will lend a helping hand. You don't have to be moved by this." Just like when Xie Tingzhou came for the first time, he had no feelings for Xie Yun in his memory, but he was still willing to save Xie Yun, not because Xie Yun was Xie Tingzhu's sister, but because Xie Yun was a person who had suffered a lot female. Xie Yun had nothing to say, he opened his mouth to speak but then stopped. "Chu Jun told me that if you don't plan to go to Shangjing City with us, then after a week later, after Brother Biao gives you the money, you can go wherever you want and you can freely choose your life, and I will not do it again." "Excuse me, just like you said, it's best for us not to contact you again or see each other again." This is the best solution given by Xie Tingzhou. If the original owner knew all this, he probably hated Xie Yun, but everyone who grew up in the swamp struggled painfully in the mud. The evil behavior of the Xie family and his wife, Ba Xie's evil, the original owner's evil, and Xie Yun's evil are intertwined together. They are nothing more than jealousy and pain. As long as this family is broken up, the pain and jealousy will disappear, and evil will no longer continue. Xie Yun's unsaid words were stuck in his mouth, and his face was a little pale, but he knew that his second brother had already made a decision, and what he was saying was useless. "Okay, I'm leaving. If you need anything later, just contact Brother Biao directly. I will arrange for Brother Biao to take care of you for a while." Xie Tingzhou stood up and planned to leave, but Xie Yun behind him finally couldn't help but ask, "Second brother, have you really changed? Why can't I see you resenting me? Did you really not hate me when I did things like that?" Xie Yun stubbornly wanted an answer, but Xie Tingzhou did not look back. Hatred and suffering were all experienced by the original owner. Although Xie Tingzhou had experienced them, for Xie Tingzhou, who had experienced too much, these pains and sufferings were just 1/10,000,000th of the sadness and were not worth mentioning to him. But Xie Tingzhou did not forgive Xie Yun for the original owner. Even if the original owner is not a good person, if the original owner was not harmed at the beginning, he might grow into a very good person. In the path of life, the first 20 years will almost always affect a person's subsequent life. Maybe, but those things don't matter anymore. Now that I have a wife and 2 children, I know what I should care about. He opened his legs and walked out, without looking back this time. Xie Yun also knew from this moment that he had truly lost his second brother. At this moment, Xie Yun even preferred that his second brother hated him, rather than being thrown away like garbage. In the end, he collapsed and squatted on the ground and cried. She was still too selfish. She calculated that her second brother had really changed. If he met such a good sister-in-law, he would forgive her and take her with him. Even if he knew everything about that year, he would feel pity for her. In her dark heart, she hoped that the second brother would forgive her despicable behavior, but at this moment, the second brother's behavior of drawing a clear line with her proved everything. She completely lost her second brother. After losing her vampire-like family, she lost the only second brother who tried to save her. After Xie Tingzhou left the room, he called Brother Biao, planning to go out quickly to resolve the matter. After asking brother Biao for someone, he sped towards Xie's house. At the same time, Liang Chujun came to the room where the children were, and was a little surprised to see that both children were asleep. Xian couldn't stand it anymore. He didn't want to sleep when he saw his brother, so he had to let Xiao Yao accompany him. After Xiao Yao accompanied him and lay on the bed together, the two of them fell asleep. Huang Shutong was so happy when she talked about her grandson. Seeing that her daughter seemed to be in a bad mood, she took her daughter's hand and went to the small living room outside. "Where is Tingzhou? Are you out to do something?" Knowing that there was something going on at Xie Tingzhu's family, Huang Shutong asked now. Yes, Liang Chujun nodded, and Huang Shutong sighed after hearing the result. "What's going on in the Xie family?" Xiao Yao, a good child, returned to his hometown. He didn't know that he was in pain, but he even hit someone. "I felt uncomfortable when I saw the wound on this child's face. What if there are scars in the future? What to do?" It's not that Huang Shutong didn't feel sorry for Xie Yao. After all, they were all her grandchildren. Only her daughter dared to say that now. Liang Chujun suddenly raised his head and looked at his mother seriously. "Mom, when I go back this time, I want to change Xiao Yao to our family's surname, so that Xiao Yao can also be named Liang, and I have already discussed it with Tingzhou." Huang Shutong was stunned for a moment, with a bit of surprise on her face. "Ah! Good man, he has a golden finger." Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 300. When their daughter's prenatal checkup revealed twins, the Liang couple were overjoyed, but later they heard their daughter and son-in-law discuss that the eldest child's surname was Xie and the second child's surname was Liang. "I can't say anything more. After all, although the wife has married into my family, the son-in-law and daughter have a good relationship, so there is no rejection between the two." Later, her daughter gave birth to a pair of twins, the eldest Xie Yao and the second Liang Xian. Obviously, Xie Yao's name was given by his son-in-law Xie Tingzhou. From the name or other positions, he belongs to the Xie family. But Liang Xian was different. The name Liang Xian was carefully chosen by Liang's father since his daughter was pregnant. He even asked a master to calculate it. It is a particularly good name. The most important thing is that this child will be the future heir of the Liang group and the Liang family. The heir to the daughter of the couple. Although the Liang family does not favor sons over daughters, they still attach great importance to family inheritance. Otherwise, they would not require their daughter to find a man to marry into the family. Therefore, the daughter's children will inherit the glory of the Liang family. This is something Liang's father and Liang's mother have long known. Already planned. By this generation, Liang Chujun has established a firm foothold in the Liang group. After a few years, Liang Chujun retires, and the new heir will be Liang Xian. Of course, in addition, Liang Xian will also inherit the original arrangement of Liang's father and Liang's mother. Family assets given to two families. These are things that Xie Yao cannot inherit. One surname can separate the divide between the two children. Now, her daughter actually asks Xie Yao to change her name, and to take the Liang family's surname. If it was 6 years ago, the Liang family couple would have been extremely happy, but now, Huang Shutong feels embarrassed. "Chu Jun, I don't know what happened here to make my son-in-law want to change Xie Yao's name, but I can't make the decision on this matter. I need to go back and discuss it with your father." She said words of compromise, but in reality it was a gesture of rejection. The child is 6 years old and somewhat sensible. Liang Xian is the heir of the Liang family. There is no doubt about this. If there is another child of the Liang family now, how will the Liang group be as stable as a mountain in the future? What will happen when brothers fight? If Xie Yao's surname is Xie, when he grows up, he will understand what this surname has brought him and what he has lost, and he will naturally not fight. And many things in this world are so unfair. Sometimes when a person is born, everything is already doomed. It's like a mocking comment made by netizens, saying that if you didn't live in a big villa or drive a supercar when you were born, it's almost certain that you won't have these in your future life. Family background and surname bring honor and assets. Even if you don't admit it, they always exist in the hearts of Chinese people. Otherwise, why are so many people fighting for such a surname? Because the surname sometimes represents the stepping stone to the inheritance of this family. Liang Chejun naturally heard the underlying meaning of his mother's words and knew that her mother was expressing her objection. If her mother agreed, she would be very happy and directly said that she would discuss it with his father then. For a moment, Liang Chejun felt inexplicably uncomfortable and aggrieved, not for himself, but for his son Xiaoyao. "Mom, I'm not asking for your opinion, I'm informing you. Don't worry, if you and Dad don't agree with Xiaoyao's change of surname, I will still change his surname to Liang. It's not my parents' Liang, it's my Liang Chejun's." After saying this, Liang Chejun interrupted directly when he saw his mother hurriedly wanting to say something. "I know what you are worried about. You think that the Liang family only needs one heir, and Liang Xian is enough. So if Xiaoyao changes his name, it will definitely affect the position of the future heir of the Liang family. I also know that even if Xiaoyao is usually Yao and Liang Xian have exactly the same material possessions, from clothes to pocket money to the startup funds and family funds saved every year. However, they are destined to be different. Xiaoyao's surname is Xie, and he is Xie Ting's Xie. It's Liang Qiuxiang. This is something that a leader has long understood. Liang Chejun has always been calm and will not cause problems in his career because of feelings. He has perfectly solved many requests made by his parents. But this time when he saw Xiaoyao being injured, as a mother, how can she be rational? How can we accept all this calmly? The originally stable future for the children now seems completely different. How can the brothers continue to live happily together then? When Huang Shutong heard what her daughter said, her face turned cold. She didn't expect her daughter to say that. This good-tempered woman was also angry. "Liang Chejun, I know you said such things because you saw Xiaoyao injured. I don't blame you. If your father and I insist on having an heir to the Liang family, we will have nothing to do except you. You can have another one. You said that Liang Xian's Liang is your father Liang Qiuxiang's Liang. Aren't you also Liang Qiuxiang's Liang? It was your and Xie Ting's decision to separate the two children. I have been thinking about this issue in the room for several days. I know that the lives of the two brothers will definitely be very different in the future, but you insist on letting Xiaoyao's surname be Xie. In order to prove your love for Xie Tingzhou, you now blame me and you. Dad shouldn't be partial." She sneered, looking at the daughter in front of her who had made a mistake and wanted to correct it, but didn't care about the life or death of others. "Yes, your father and I admit that we favor Xian more because his surname is Liang and he will be the future heir of the Liang family. However, we are also very good to Xiaoyao and like Xiaoyao. Do you think Xian will inherit it in the future? Will the Liang group abandon this brother? The two brothers are very close, and it is probably only us adults who are planning a lot. Do you think I want to do this for the sake of this family? You can change Xiaoyao's surname if you want. From what you said, it's your Liang Chejun's name anyway. What does it have to do with me and your father?" After saying that, she turned away and went to a side room to calm down. Huang Shutong was afraid that she would continue to quarrel with her daughter. What if she woke up the two children? Liang Chejun, who stayed there, stood there blankly, with red eyes, and suddenly understood that he was too extreme. This matter could obviously be discussed carefully, but he ended up like this. He wanted to catch up and apologize to his mother. But I didn't know what to do, so I could only stand in silence. Little did the two of them know that their quarrel had fallen on the ears of the two children. Liang Xian and Xiaoyao were pretending to sleep before. After all, Children fall asleep immediately when they want to sleep, but they can't fall asleep when they are excited. After eavesdropping on the conversation between the two people, Xiao took his younger brother Liang Xian's hand and returned to the bed. The two covered their heads and whispered secretly. "Brother, I know that you are my grandparents' favorite child. You will do many great things like your mother in the future." Xiao leaned his head against his brother and talked about what he had heard at Xia's house before. "Dad's parents say that you are the heir to the Liang family, and I am just a loser that no one wants. But I know that's not the case. Both my grandparents and my parents love me very much. You, my brother, love me too, right?" he asked quietly, not feeling sad about the adults' matters, but rather being serious. "Brother is not a dragster," Liang Xian said dully. In fact, Liang Xian, who was as big as a brat, had long known the difference between himself and his brother. Although both of them often go to their grandparents' house and often run around the house, Liang's father Liang Qiuxiang will only let Liang Xian into his study room, and then take Liang Xian with him when he goes to the company. They even share a birthday. Grandpa would take Liang Xian to know many people, but Xiao would always be with Xia Tingzhou and Liang Chajun. It can be said that the sensitive Liang Xian can even tell from the behavior of the Liang family's housekeeper that the other party treats him differently from his brother. "I don't want to be an heir anymore. I just want my brother to be with me." "Brother, does daddy want you to change your surname?" Other children may not understand these things, but both Xiao and Liang Xian do. "Well, because my parents bullied me, my father wanted to change it for me. He wanted to use my mother's last name. My mother seemed very happy. But grandma seems unhappy." Xiao couldn't figure this out, but still hugged his brother. "It doesn't matter whether I change or not. Anyway, I will always be Xian's brother. I know my grandparents also like me. Just after we fell asleep, grandma secretly touched my wound, and then she seemed to cry. I already have a lot of them." He is a child who is easily satisfied. Liang Xian pursed his lips when he heard this, hugged his brother tightly and buried his head next to him. "I like my brother too, and I will always like my brother. I will become stronger and protect my brother well." His brother was easily bullied and was hurt after leaving him. Liang Xian decided to treat his grandparents better when he returned home, and if his grandparents gave him good things, he would secretly give them to his brother. Stupid. Brother has to protect his brother. I was born earlier than you, so of course I have to protect you. Brother doesn't need you to protect him, he will always protect you. The two children said the most innocent words in the world, hugged each other, and then slowly fell asleep. And they didn't know that when they were whispering under the covers, Liang Chajun and Huang Shutong, who were worried that the children would come out again, had already heard what the two children said, and their eyes were red at this time. Liang Chajun's tears fell, but he couldn't say a word. He turned around and buried himself in his mother's arms. Why is Huang Shutong still angry at this moment? He quickly hugged his daughter, patted her back, and said softly, "You can do whatever you want, Chujun, you are the only treasure of me and your father. No one in this world can be more important than you, so you can do whatever you want. Mom and Dad will support you. You're